We are on the last day of the Novena to St. Bernard. Tomorrow is the feast day. And then we need to get ready. We have been getting ready for 9 days. And today is the last day. So we need to not to waste time and to be ready for tomorrow's great feast, the feast of our patron saint, St. Bernard. And yesterday we mentioned that he was an expert in prayer because he was a monk. And the monks are men who dedicate their lives entirely to prayer. That's why he was not only an expert in prayer, but he was teaching many others how to pray. And yesterday we meditated on the importance that prayer has in our daily and personal life. Because the Christian who prays will finally be saved. Because prayer is the path that brings us to heaven. But St. Bernard was also a great missionary. A great missionary because he left his monastery to go on mission and help many others to find Jesus Christ. It was not that he escaped from the monastery, but that he was often sought out and begged to go to advise a king, to stop a war, to resolve a schism, and even to renew the Christian spirit of the people. St. Bernard did not use his missions outside the monastery as an excuse not to pray, but he did so because the situation was urgent, and he was urged to do so. He once said, "God's businesses are my businesses. Nothing that concerns him is alien to me." So it was that St. Bernard was not only an accomplished monk, but a courageous apostle and missionary. He alone founded 68 monasteries and became the most influential man of his time in Europe. That's why some authors would say the 12th century belonged only to St. Bernard because of the great importance he had, or better to say, because of his missionary work, because he was bringing society, nations, kings, and even the very Pope to God. A biographer says, there seems to have been in this one mind, St. Bernard's mind, an inexhaustible abundance, variety, and versatility of gifts. Without ceasing to be the humble and mortified monk, Bernard appears as the ruling will of his time. He stands forth as pastor, preacher, mystical writer, reformer, pacificator, mediator, diplomatist, and statesman. Of all the writers of the first 1,000 years of the Church, none is fuller of fervent, adoring, tender love for the divine Lord, and none is more conspicuous for ardent affection and veneration for the Mother of God. So St. Bernard was a man who was totally devoted to the cause of God. His only concern was to serve God and extend his kingdom, to give him glory and honor, and to save many souls. He defended the faith against errors and heresies, against those who wanted to change the gospel. He advised the Pope himself. He encouraged many to convert to God and others to enter in the monastery. He convinced many others to go on pilgrimage to the Holy Land and to visit the tomb of the Lord. And to many others, he convinced to become knights of the Crusades to defend the pilgrims. He was a complete and gifted man, and he used his gifts and talents to spread the kingdom of God. because he was truly a missionary. Because he was truly a Christian. Because the person who is truly Christian, who lives in accordance with his baptism, is necessarily a missionary. In such a way that you can perfectly say that if a Christian is not a missionary, he is lacking an essential aspect of his being. Because Christians are missionaries by nature. That is what the Council Vatican II says very clearly. The church is missionary by nature. And then all Catholics, they are too. They are missionary by nature. And why is it? Why is it that Christians are missionary by nature? Because the one who gets to know Jesus and the one who gets to know him deeply, then naturally he looks for spreading this knowledge to others. Because Jesus is the greatest thing, the greatest person that ever existed. He's the highest good. And then when you have a good thing, when you have a good news, you want to spread it out. Therefore, the Christian who does not effectively seek to give Christ to others is a Christian who is missing an essential part of his identity. No, Father, that is for priests and nuns to be missionaries, to spread the gospel. Yeah, of course it's for them, but it's for all Christians. That is why when you were baptized, that day you became a priest to offer sacrifices. Yeah, your daily sacrifices. You became a king to rule over your passions. And you became a prophet to spread the gospel. But there are Christians who are not prophets. Maybe because they are not true Christians. And for them, Jesus is not a big and great news. Another aspect of being a missionary, which is also very important and is also very much present in the life of Saint Bernard, is the giving of oneself to the neighbor. It is the act of giving oneself to the other that actually constitutes a Christian to be such. Because man cannot fully find himself except through a sincere gift of himself. And these are the words of St. John Paul II. A Christian cannot fully find himself except through a sincere gift of himself. That is, to live for others. That is why St. Paul, he brought in the letter to the Corinthians, the second letter to the Corinthians, I will most gladly spend and be spent for you. And then he was a true Christian, living for others, giving of yourself. And we can see that very clearly in the life of our patron saint, how he was spent daily for others. He was not sparing any effort. Sometimes they will find him at night writing letters. You should go to sleep, but tomorrow I won't have time. I need to do this. Somebody is awaiting this letter. I have to help this person. I had to travel many kilometers simply to give a good advice. That's why St. Bernard traveled throughout Europe, even going all the way south to Rome and beyond on foot, which meant to cross the Alps. That was not easy at all. But he did it because his life was not for himself. His life was a gift God gave him for others. And then he was a true Christian. One of the greatest crises we are experiencing today is that of depression, lack of meaning in life, lethargy, unhappiness, and so on. How many times we meet people, they suffer depression? Young people, many times. What's going on? These diseases have become popular, especially among the young people, because of the lack of this giving of oneself to others. Selfishness is what produces the deepest sadness, while generosity, detachment, concern for others is the right path to happiness. That is why Saint Therese of Lisieux said it very clearly. The day I forgot about myself, I began to be happy. You want to be happy? Forget about yourself. Think more about others. I will most gladly spend and be spent for you, said St. Paul. And then we find it very clearly in the life of our patron saint, how he lived constantly for others. St. Bernard then was a happy man because he forgot about himself and always lived for others. That is why once an author said that St. Bernard was compared to the sun because he did good to everyone, and above all, because he made everyone grow in the love for Jesus Christ. Just as the sun gives life and joy, light, so did St. Bernard, because he had learned the art of self-giving. We need to be little suns, that we are always spreading light, warmth to others. That's our mission. That's our vocation. Then on this last day of the Novena, so close already to the feast day of our patron, let us ask from our Blessed Mother this grace to be true missionaries, to be generous with our lives, to be spent for others, so that we can be true Christians and live in accordance with our baptism.